Thank you for joining us this morning at today's Croes-y-Parc Chapel Sunday drop-in. You are most welcome. We're going to start our time together with some verses from Psalm 121.
Good morning and thanks for joining us. You ever heard the story about the feeding of the 5,000? It's where Jesus had been talking to a huge crowd, and at lunchtime everyone realised there's no food and the shops are miles away. Only there were no shops on the planet which could handle that kind of volume. A little boy comes up with 5 loaves and 2 fishes and gives them to Jesus. His disciples think this is pretty crazy and it's not going to do the job, but they get told to hand them out anyway. And they do. Everyone is fed and there's 12 basketfuls left over. Anyway, the feeding of the 5,000. Even at a basic level, it kicks a couple of popular ideas into touch. The first is that there's no such thing as a free lunch. Clearly, there is. Nobody paid for this one. It didn't cost anybody anything. Even the guy who owned the original fish butties got to eat all he wanted, and there was loads left over. The other popular idea, which is challenged by the sudden appearance of food, is that matter can neither be created nor destroyed. Not by people, anyway. But like all our scientific laws, they're not binding on God. He created them to govern our environment. They don't govern him. And he can suspend them at any time. We see a lot of that in the Bible. And every time God suspends a scientific law, we call it a miracle, don't we? Jesus did it all the time. He wasn't that bothered about the laws of medicine, the laws of death and decay. He shortcut the fermentation process at the wedding in Cana. And we have a law about displacement, which he studiously ignored when he walked on water. So we call them miracles, but God is not bound by the stuff he's put in place for our world. The original plan was that the disciples were going to perform the miracle. Before the loaves and fishes turned up, Jesus tells them, "You give them something to eat." And the disciples, probably suspecting they were being challenged to do something miraculous by faith, don't seem to like where this is going. So they choose to believe Jesus wants them to nip down the shop. And they start bleating about how it would cost 8 months' wages to treat this lot to lunch. Are we going to spend that much on bread and give it to them to eat? Well, no. There is nowhere you could possibly buy it. Plan A is for the disciples to engage with the miraculous, to do Christ's work for him in his power, to break out of the constraints of the laws of science. But they don't want to know. So instead of being miracle workers, they end up as waiters. And this is often the dichotomy of the human condition, that we want God to act powerfully in our lives. We want him to do stuff through us. but perhaps we don't really believe that he will. Sometimes it may be a sense of unworthiness that we just don't qualify. But if that were true, we would have to say that the disciples didn't qualify either, because that lot weren't exactly perfect, were they? God has a long history of working his power through people. There's very few things he's done without us. He likes to elevate humanity by involving us in what he's doing. That's the message of this scripture. Failure is optional, and just because the first disciples chose it, it doesn't mean that we have to. If we are truly open to God, if we remain aware of his desire to work through us, the availability of his power, his desire that we should use it in increasing measure, if we have faith and act upon it, if we're willing to leave our comfort zone, and if we use those gifts he's already given us, we will always get God's plan A for our lives, even if it won't always be our plan A. Let's be sure we are in a place to hear God's challenge to us, whatever is our own equivalent of you give them something to eat. Let's be open to that, whether it is a great challenge or something small, and let's respond and thereby allow him to lead us to the next level. God bless and stay safe.
Prince of Peace.
Thank you for being with us. You can catch up with everything going on at the chapel here on this Facebook page, and you can view sermons and kids' talks and all sorts of other things on our YouTube channel. Hope you'll join us again next Sunday. Until then, God bless.